Okay, I want to take off from where I left off, talking about Revelations chapter 6, verse 7 and 8, the what's known as the fourth horse of the apocalypse, the fourth seal, the green horse, who I am saying is represented by Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, at this time. And just to recap briefly, Doe with his vehicle that was named Applewhite, it was the white horse. He purified that horse. The horse is a physical vehicle, a human vehicle that a soul sits upon, and sit has to do with when it says that he's sitting on. Well, I won't go into that right now. Let me just go one step at a time here. And G.W. Bush was the red horse, and he brought endless war, the global war on terror. And then Obama took the reins, Barack Obama, as the black horse. And black has more meanings than just the coloration of his skin that was dark. He actually was part of the recovery of from the two falls of Babylon, the military, the fall of the World Trade Center, which was talked about in Revelation 13 as a wound inflicted on the beast. The beast, remember, is the secret government, the security government, the security state that is throughout all the government at this point, and includes institutions, and it's got its hands everywhere. Of course, the military industrial complex is part of that, and many of the heads of state are part of that. Though some don't really understand. Well, I don't know how many of the current politicians that just come into office, how many of them know the extent of the deep state that's been running the show. When the beast came about, which is actually means the poisonous mammal, and it's considered to be poisonous by the next level because they thrive on misinformation and deceit and lies and manipulation and profits turned into whatever their agenda is for their black budget programs, and the wars and the weapons sales, and in order so that they can bring their militarism to outer space, and also to try to look for another planet to live on, because this planet's being trashed. And it's trashed by the next level standards of being a planet that can be used by the next level as a hothouse, as a garden for growing souls upon. And it's being trashed because the misinformation has grown to such a degree that it's almost not possible to see the truth about the next level, and the fact that they designed everything and all the life forms for a purpose. And so it's become the United States of confusion. which is the meaning of Babylon. And so Mystery Babylon, as in Revelation 17, talks about. So now we still had relative peace in the United States, except for the last years of the Obama presidency, when things started to come apart domestically in the United States, with a lot of school shootings and terrorist attacks, and of course the state terrorism with whatever their participation was in the 9/11 attacks that stimulated increased security state with Homeland Security and the dozens and dozens of security agencies that exist, and I'm not going to go all in about that because that's another broadcast entirely. But that's where we are now. And so the green horse is Revelation 6:8. Actually is written in most Bible translations as pale horse, which there really isn't much basis for. So it's either a mistranslation or it had to do, the only thing it could have had something to do with, from my investigation, is where Chloros and Chloe have to do with a where did I have that here? I don't know. It was I guess I didn't write that in here, but it had to do with like a yellowish shoot, a green plant in its early development might look yellowish or pale. Otherwise, perhaps the original translators just used pale because the name of the one riding, sitting on the horse was named Death, and pale was always associated with death. So, but then again, that might have to do with the coloration of the individual that became the horse, the vehicle for the Luciferian space aliens, because Doe was the only one that had what was actually Doe was sitting, is the older member from the next level that had the position sitting upon the human vehicle that he took. The other three, Bush and Obama and now Mr. Trump, are being controlled by a Luciferian space alien, which is not like a unusual thing to think, because we're all under the influence of the Luciferian space aliens. Because according to Doe, there's only two types of mind. There's the mind that's misinformation, it's not true, it's not real, it's deceptive, it's misleading, it's illusionary, delusionary, and that all comes from the fallen angel space aliens that are in soul form, but they are always in a hybridization program using human DNA to try to grow vehicles, humanoid vehicles that they can then control, inhabit, occupy, sit on, like it says here, to sit, occupy, have a fixed abode, dwell upon or with, while they can also do things apart from those vehicles, because those vehicles then just become programmed robots. And some people are calling them artificial life forms, but they're actually not necessarily non-biological. But they have a limited capacity for common sense, and certainly for thinking about outside the box, because they were programmed from children to be space alien vehicles. Anyway, so the word pale was actually coming from the Greek chloros, which was from the same as Chloe, which is a feminine and apparently a primary word for green or greenish. Well, there it is, the young foliage. The verdant, VER, is from the French, like in Vermont, is the Green Mountain State. So the epithet is a descriptive characteristic of the Greek goddess Demeter. When I saw that listed in a Bible program that I was using to translate, to look at the Greek meanings behind words, I used Strong's, but Strong's didn't say anything about the goddess Demeter. There was a program called H Bible that had also used the Thayers for translation and other forms of translation from the Greek, and that actually listed in the definition of Chloe as the Greek goddess Demeter, as a description of that term, of that green term. And of course, when that happened, was what actually was at the time that the Ceres lights were being viewed by the Dawn spacecraft, and so it was blowing my mind when I was starting to see that, how the green horse was actually talking about all the things that green can represent, whether it's, well, primarily it's the harvest. We're in the second, or what Doe called the last wave of the harvest that started in 1994 when Doe had us, because I was part of the crew then, go public for the second time after 17 years of virtual silence in the public. And that's when we gathered the second crew. And then a number of those dropped off, and then I dropped out. In fact, flunked a test that I was given. And I've talked about that, and I've written about it. It's on my blog, and I think it's something to name Raptured by the Next Level or something like that, or Sawyer's Story. If you search my blog for that story, if you want to hear it. But it wasn't the end of me as serving Tian-Do. So they helped me reawaken. So when I saw Demeter, of course I went to Wikipedia and looked up who Demeter was, and that's when I saw that it was equivalent to the Roman goddess Ceres, and also the Lord of the harvest and the Lord over cereal, like corn and wheat, grains, and also fertility. And that has to do with the way that the earth is the womb for new souls to be born through. And it's through the overcoming process that they're born. There's no pie in the sky, as some Christians teach, to where Jesus did it all for you, and all you got to do is accept him as your Lord and Savior, and that he gave his blood for you, and therefore you just got to recognize that you're a sinner, and you don't even have to do anything really, and you'll expect to be saved, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And I think Jesus would be saying to those individuals that you don't know me, you don't know him. Even though you're saying, Lord, Lord, like Jesus said, your heart is far from me, because you bought the Paul programming. Because the Paul programming was very easy to buy. That's what became the Catholic Church. Very easy to buy, just pay your dues, say your prayers, go to church once in a while, and don't do certain things, and you're going to heaven when you die, which is a lie. It's a big lie. And but the next level allows it to take place, so that when they give smelling salts to the human population, parts of the human population, those will then have the chance to follow with the older members when they come public, which they did in 1973, actually, and 1975 and 6, and then again in the 1990s. Which I did want to address that a little bit, that pattern. Of the 73, 74, 75, 76, and 77. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 5 years. It might have actually been 6 years, because 72 is when Tiendo met. But some of the biggest manifestations seem to take place, well, the biggest awakening for Tiendo started in 1973 in 2 phases. So, and then 74 was additional awakening, and 75 is when they went public and spoke to some groups, and then they gave public meetings after that. And 76, they were still doing some public meetings, and he called off the harvest, and then it was about 1977 when Tiendo sent 19 members of the group that had accumulated to about 100 at that time, sent them out of the group saying that they weren't ready, and that the rest of the group that was somewhere in the 70s, in the high 70s, they said made the first cut. And of course many of those left, and we got down to 24 individuals, which I believe are the 24 elders, and I believe the 4 living beings are part of that group, but some of them returned after having dropped out, like Riccodi. I'm not saying the other 4 are living beings, but they're some of the elders, I believe. Because by those numbers, there were 28 who were ready to graduate, and the rest of the 38 plus 4, 42. I don't know. Maybe some of them were ready to graduate also, but they were all ready to graduate a notch past where they had been. And Doe said that some of them would have to come back and overcome some more. So I believe some of them will get a grown vehicle that's a human equivalent vehicle, but we'll still have some overcoming to experience. And they will get that next time the older members have a classroom, which isn't scheduled to happen until after the recycle. So you're not going to see anybody coming to start a classroom before then. If they do, then they're a charlatan. Anyway, so it's interesting that Chloros and Chloe are a green herb, and also listed as a Christian female, the name itself, and that's possibly related to chlorine, I think, because of chlorine's green-colored nature that purifies. It's a pale green, chlorine, and that purifies. It makes white via the death of the negative elements. And that can be played out in a number of ways, because the human condition is a dead condition unless the next level puts a soul seed in the human vehicle. And like I said before, I don't know how many soul seeds were planted and exactly when, but I think most were planted while the next level was here, the older members. And that might have continued for some years after they left, because I don't believe they actually left the atmosphere of Earth, or the close vicinity of Earth, until a little bit after the year 2000. But I don't know that, so I may be wrong about that. So I shouldn't really try to guess things like that. It doesn't really make any difference. If you feel like this information means something to you, then you have a deposit. And we can't judge anybody that it doesn't mean anything to, because you don't know when it might mean something to them. And we can't judge that we're ahead of or behind anybody else either, because everybody is potentially going through their lesson plan. And some that don't gravitate to T and Do may be learning lessons that those that gravitate to T and Do have yet to learn, and vice versa. But eventually, everybody that's going to graduate in the future civilization, even though it's a step of graduation to just become a disciple, a student of T and Do right now, but everybody's going to have to go through that same birth canal of overcoming the human kingdom and overcoming death, and being willing to be of service to the next level by spreading what T and Do said and did, and accepting the consequences. until they exit their vehicle, maintaining that stand, like Tiendo talked about, standing for Tiendo, which meant being in defense of them. You know, like if somebody starts saying that they were Looney Tunes and they were evil, and all those people were manipulated to kill themselves. If you feel like you understand better, you know better, even though it may be difficult to know better, and there may be doubts about knowing better, you in your core feel like you do know better, then standing up for them. And the way you're going to understand how to stand up for them is by studying everything they left behind for us, which is all available. Well, most of it's available. Some of the tapes aren't. And that's a long story that I've talked about before, so I'm not going to go through it now. But it says that this green horse, the green human vehicle, you know, whether that means green in the sense of it's young in its mind, or it's got a green vibration to it. Like T once told me that she saw me, she said I looked green. And this was just casual in the hallway in the craft where T was actually living at the time, in the same craft in Dallas, Texas. I said, what do you mean by green? And she said, I don't know. That's how I remember it. She said, I don't know, you just look green. So, you know, T wasn't, T was a few words, but she didn't make up stuff. And, you know, she didn't try to evaluate everything that she felt. I don't believe. And Doe indicated that as well, so I'm not making that up. She just knew certain things. She knew what she was seeing and perceiving. And she didn't have to try to explain it to anybody. Although, since Doe gave her kind of a hard time, he said, in the beginning, maybe she did do some explanations in the beginning. But in any case, Doe outgrew that and knew that this was his older member. Not that she ever said that she was his older member. And I'm saying she, but it's really not a she. It's because there's no gender in the next level. So So green could also refer to the influence of the space aliens. You know, remember how Martians were said to be green and green skinned? And maybe some of the space aliens came from Mars. From Doe, he said that the next level arranged for space aliens to come from a number of different places in the universe or this galaxy. I'm not sure exactly if it was the, you know, across many galaxies or not. But and green, you know, also had to do with the luck of the Irish, right? And I think we're coming up on St. Paddy's Day. And the Emerald Island and, you know, the green slippers and the Wizard of Oz. And, all these usages of green can be a relationship with actually the terminology that the next level wanted to stimulate. And Tiendo talked about how one of the tasks in the next level that's especially fun is to stimulate terminology and watch the humans gravitate towards certain terminology. And in a sense, the next level may have allowed Pale to be used in the translation of Chloros to throw the Luciferians off track regarding its real meaning of green. I don't know. But I know that the next level has a strategy. And the reason the Book of Revelations was written with mostly symbolism was to keep it secret, keep the truth secret, so that when the next level wanted it to be revealed, they could stimulate it. So because they would match it up with the signs that they would create, like the signs of the Ceres lights and the Pluto docking bays, and the fact that Pluto has like a Earth-like blue atmosphere, not as big of an atmosphere as Earth, but in relationship to how Tiendo wrote a movie script in 1983 or so. They stimulated a movie script to be written that they said was fiction based on the truth, and that where Pluto was a laboratory, inside it was an Earth lab, they called it. And there was actually like a replica of the Earth, a living replica of the Earth inside Pluto, that technicians were standing around and taking notes about, because it was also had screens all around the globe inside Pluto, like on the walls of the planet, inside of the planet, that were huge screens that were tuning into different places on the Earth. And I would imagine that their computer systems were set up to where they could look at anything on the Earth that was going on and observe it, and then think about their strategy for whatever they were trying to accomplish in order to provide humans with a balance of reality and what the Luciferian space aliens were seeding in misinformation. Because the next level, they do give us the full range of opportunities to change. Just like the Luciferians, when they went against the next level, had the opportunity to change repeatedly, as T talked about in the Black Hawk tapes. So the biggest meaning of green, green was associated with a progressive political party in Germany, I believe, and maybe some other places in Europe. And of course, the Green Party in the United States is considered to be the most progressive party in terms of free will and tolerance and compassion, and the qualities that are not from the human kingdom. They're stimulated by the next level. So there's the positive side of the green, and there's the negative side of the green. And one of the negative sides of the green is the way it's been used for the Green Revolution in terms of now global warming. But not that there's not a global warming trend happening, which the next level can change anytime they want to. So that's no longer a trend. But the humans are, and especially the government, the secret government, is using that as a propaganda tool in order to generate interest by convincing people that the next level has nothing to do with it. Next level doesn't even exist, and that that is all human caused. The climate change is all human caused, according to the Democratic Party largely, and all those that are in league with them to degrees. And not only them, but whatever other people are in league with that in the universities and the institutions and some of the religious affiliations as well. So, which the next level is going to bring more heat, and they are going to destroy the recycling will take place because of the lake of fire. And that's going to be, I believe, through volcanic activity underground as well as above the ground. That's going to affect a lot of things. But that's only when the next level is ready to end the project, which there's still some years before that's going to happen, I believe. I can't say for sure how many years, but from the timeline, I'm not going to actually say, but it's not that far away. It's not like going to be thousands of years. It's going to be within the lifetimes of the people now, and even shorter than that. I'm not talking about like babies that are born now. I'm talking about the lifetime, within the lifetime of all those who were, I think the way Tiendo talked about it was everyone that came of, that was of some adult capacity, while Tiendo were coming public. Those individuals will see the end time. Not necessarily all of them, but of that generation as far as the timeline. So we're talking about, another 10 or 20 years at the most, I think. And there's other indications of that in the prophecy. But the prophecy, remember, is just a blueprint or like a map that was provided so that the next level could put certain things into motion when it came time to do it. And those things would be seen by the humans that they seeded as fulfillment of prophecy, because they will be fulfillment of prophecy. It's not like the next level knows the future. In some ways they do know the future, because they know how the garden grows, and they also know how all the parts of the garden grow or don't grow, hinder growth. So they know the space aliens what they're going to do. They're going to try to get off the planet. They're going to try to turn people away from the next level, to entrap souls into their ranks, and they're going to try to get humans to build their technology to get off the planet, and also to fight against the next level when the next level comes to recycle, which is a gradual arrival that we're seeing now, more and more. Meanwhile, the Luciferian space aliens are creating, and the beast, the government, the secret government that's developed their own spacecrafts now, and from the technology that was given to them through the crashed spacecrafts and through the help of the Luciferians, fallen angels, they're now they have developed spacecrafts or devices that can perhaps defy gravity, although they may not be able to do it for very long or for very big loads of weight if they don't have certain elements. And I think that's one of the things that they're looking for, that Bush talked about, and I think that maybe Trump was referring to as the mysteries in the universe that they were going to be learning about through his presidency, that he said in his inauguration speech. Anyway, they're not saying these things casually. They like to give little clues. It's their little secret way of telling the truth, a little bit of the truth, tiny, tiny bit of the truth, without being called on the carpet for it. So, and it also signals people in the know about the space alien issues and the development of the underground cities that are being developed as we speak more and more. So Pluto, the way that enters into, well, I already talked about how the name of the individual that's sitting on, that has the position, a seat is a position, it's a task. And the name of the individual that has the task to sit on the green horse that is Trump is Death, Thanatos, deadly, the Greek god of death. The Roman Moors, or Letus, or Letum, I'm not sure exactly, I haven't researched those terms, but those are some of the things that came up in my Bible and Greek translation software. Anyway, so, and hell follows with him. That's all in there. So it would appear that hell is the condition of final death, annihilation. It's when the spirits and the souls and the human vehicles are all killed. Because they've chosen to go in that direction. They weren't wanting to be killed, but they weren't taking the opportunities to change from their renegade ways against the next level. To renegade against the human kingdom is a positive, because then you're separating from the human kingdom. But to renegade against the creators, the next level, all the members, that's a ticket to death. As simple as that. Even though the next level will give every soul many chances to recover when they fall, when they drop out, when they start doing things and saying things that the next level would not approve of about other people, and because if you're saying something, if you're saying what's not true, but you're saying it as if it is true, like saying God's dead, or God doesn't exist, or that there is no next level, or just all came about, or that Jesus did it for you, so you don't have to do anything except believe on him, and or if you're just accusing somebody of something and you have no evidence of it, you're just accusing them because you don't like them. You don't like what they're saying, or what the attention they're getting, or whatever it is. But you don't have any reason. You can't say, well, it's because you said this and this isn't true. That's all putting out misinformation. That's all what was called in Jesus' terminology, blasphemy. And of course, blasphemy becomes in the eyes of the beholder, to where people that say they are working for God will even kill people in the name of their God. And that's going to happen again, especially with the people that go the distance to try to bring Tiendo to the public more and more. Regardless of whether they're doing it the way I'm doing it, talking about the back side of the book, the little book part of the overall book that Tiendo wrote or designed, instigated, passed on, provided, which is their mind, their information, the programs that we need to employ to take over our human computers, our human brain, our human mind, our human body. Tiendo talked about them as programs. Not that we're becoming robots, because what makes us not robots is that we have to do all the work. We have to decide what programs to install in our vehicles. And that's why Tiendo were teaching the steps to that. You can't make up your own steps. You have to use Tiendo's steps. Otherwise, it's not their mind. You can do all the same things, celibacy and separating from family and separating from human behaviors and ways and lifestyle and all that. Go live in a cave somewhere. But if that's not what Tiendo gave, and they're the current representatives, then you're not going to reap the benefits of those things, because you'll be actually doing it for yourself when you need to do it because Tiendo said it. Do it for them, actually. You're doing it in service to them, and then that becomes part of your mind. You actually then accumulate. Their mind then is coming through you, and then when you share it with others, like Tiendo taught, then you're making space in your soul to receive more of their mind by giving it to others. And it becomes your mind, but not so much that you want to rest on your laurels and say, well, I don't need to ask Tiendo for help with this way of expressing this or this idea, because they've given it to me before and I've expressed it before, so I'm not going to ask them. But what we don't know is that for every person that we might communicate with, Tiendo might have us say things in a slightly different way, quoting them, but also showing an equivalent way of looking at it that might appeal to that specific individual. So that's what also makes us not into robots. We're not just just going out and saying Do said this and T said this, quote unquote. I memorized it. Even though that's good to do, when you're actually delivering that information to somebody, whether it's writing in a comment or on a blog or wherever you're doing it or in person, that's the time to be saying in your mind silently, Tiendo, help me express this in the way that you would express it now. And use the keywords that you remembered that Tiendo said, because those keywords are going to be some of the biggest pointers that those individuals will have some of in their programming that's given to them as part of a deposit, and that they grow that deposit in their life during their lifespan. And that becomes an accelerated growth when they actually hook up with Tiando, whether physically or mentally, as of now. So that's where a hell is actually Hades, and is actually considered to be a person or a place, and that Pluto is the ruler and judge of the lower regions, the realm of the dead, the grave, death, the receptacle of disembodied spirits. So that's where because Pluto in 2015, in the summer of 2015, when the New Horizons spacecraft just happened to be going past Pluto at the same time as the Dawn spacecraft was beginning to orbit around Ceres. And both of those planets are depicted here in this green horse. So that was like the time frame starting in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017 is now. That's the same pattern that was happening with 1972, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which actually I haven't documented this, but may also be the 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Also, I did document this. A big part of this same pattern was when Doe went public as who he was when he was incarnate in the vehicle that was named Jesus. He was not Jesus. He was the older member soul that took the body named Jesus and transformed it into a next level vehicle by his pulling in his older member's mind and allowing that, and how that ended up changing his behaviors and ways to where Doe said at the transfiguration is when he had completed his metamorphosis enough to where he could heal himself. His own body would have the potential of healing because he was growing a soul inside that body. And that soul was a physical entity. It's a physical container, pillowcase. That's a subtle physical compared to what Jesus compared to the wind. So that was not visible by humans. Unless the next level wants to make themselves visible. And then they can let any human see them if they want to. Which seemed to have happened. Well, seems to be happen on the soul level, and also on the level of whatever vehicle is grown for them to wear when they graduate into the next level. That vehicle also has a capacity to appear and disappear. Yet it's still physical to where, like Jesus did, he was able to eat and be touched, and they could see that that body was made from the body that was murdered, that had the scars on it, and he showed those scars. But then upon the return, of course, they took new vehicles with new names, as it says in Revelation 3:12. and that he would give us the name of the Father, and that's where Doe identified that he was the Father, and that she would identify him as the return of the one that had been incarnate as Jesus. And Elijah before that, and Moses before that, and Enoch before that, and Adam to start off the experiment, which wasn't the first experiment on Earth. Tiendo felt like there was a number of civilizations on Earth where the next level was performing a certain degree of experiment, and that there might be some more to come, but they didn't know for sure. Anyway, so I want to move on past Pluto and Hell here. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill, cause to separate by dying, solidifies one's judgment of self, used by the next level to divide the tares from the wheat, sheep from the goats. So the fourth part of the earth, I believe, is referring to America, the United States. North America primarily, but so that's where there's going to be a lot more death now than there has been before, because before now the next level was holding back that part of the harvest to give a chance. Well, initially Tiendo said so that the classroom could continue without being interfered with. So they were keeping the warring parties at bay and the violence at bay. And the next level has ways of doing that, so that people aren't prone to express themselves by going out and killing other people, thinking that they're doing something for God or Allah or whatever name they want to use, or just because they don't like women, or they don't like gays or blacks, or whatever their biases are, or they're against Republicans or Democrats or this party or that party, and they just want to lash out because they've accepted that programming for so long. Now the next level has taken some steps to where they can't even hold back anymore, because they've become what they were thinking all that time. And so they end up manifesting their own desires, justifying it in some way. Just like the United States and other countries justify going to foreign nations and taking them over and warring, stimulating wars. It's the same kind of thing. It's like it's a disease. And it makes them poisonous mammals because they're spreading that poison. That's why they're called the beast, poisonous animals. But the death in this case is going to come from a number of different angles. One is the sword, which is the weapon of any kind that cuts down human plants. And with hunger being the idea of destitution, scarcity of food, famine, and dearth. Now, it's recently, in the last month even, there's been an increased reporting on the famine in Africa. So that's going to be going on too, but that's going to also, I believe, take place in the United States. I'm not sure exactly what the balances are, but I'm not sure when that's going to start, It could be, any time. It could be years from now. Maybe if they get rid of the food stamp program, there'll be more of it. Certainly would be, right? And there's definitely an effort to try to take away entitlements. And there's definitely in the prophecy, it talks about how those that accept the various identifications and marks of the beast, those that don't accept it won't be able to buy and sell. So where are they going to get their food if they can't go to the supermarket and buy food? They're going to have to rely on their local networks of people that are in the same boat. It'd be like a black market. And the farmers that they've set up relationships with and maybe work on their farms and things like that. Because to accept the marks, identification of the beast, is to basically show our allegiance to those deceitful, poisonous mammals. And that will basically show the next level that we don't have any of their mind left in us. Otherwise, we couldn't do it. It's like selling your soul to the devil to go along with them. It'd be better to die of hunger than to sell your soul to the devil. Because even if your vehicle dies, for whatever reason, the next level knows where your heart was. And so they will take your spirit or soul and save it for another opportunity to have life again through a human vehicle. Because that's the way that the design was set up, to where the overcoming process, the metamorphosis, was stimulated by working on the characteristics of the human vehicles that we have, and changing those characteristics into next level characteristics only, which is a gradual thing and is never 100% complete by the time we lose our vehicle. Because, like, for instance, we even use human influences, the scarnets Tiendo talked about, to walk. That's why when there's certain diseases that happen, people can forget how to walk, because those influences that gave them that facility, taught them that facility, left. Were kicked out with the disease, for instance, or were looking for greener pastures. So gave up on the vehicle that they were with for most of the life of that vehicle, maybe. And then it says that they will be killed, separated by dying, with death. There goes Thanatos again. So death is going to kill them with death. But death in this framework, I believe, has to do with deadly thinking, behaviors and ways, accepting the misinformation mind, as opposed to, so it's the death of the spirit and soul, as opposed to death of the vehicle, although they go hand in hand also. If we accept negative, deadly thinking, we are also accepting the vibration of those discarnates and Luciferian space aliens that had a decaying body that died. And so we can actually receive the ailments from those dead human or human equivalents. Tiendo talked about the space aliens as being human equivalents. And death would also possibly include through substance abuse, dying from overdoses, things like that. And death would also come from the beasts. And this is the beast that's the Therion, from Thera, a dangerous animal, venomous, I should have said, note, poisonous like a viper, wild animal predators who entrap to destroy, humans who give their loyalty to the mystery secret New Babylonian state of causing confusion, US and EU, beastly governments and their corporations, institutions, and their followers of the earth. So that's all the forms of death that will be escalating now that the green horse prophecy is in the process of being fulfilled. And with that said, I'm going to call this video to a close, and there'll be several parts to this fourth horse of the apocalypse.